for the discussion. Okay, so and now we practice a little bit, okay? Otherwise, we just read the slides and see abstract concepts and so on. Before starting, I want to tell you, it's perfectly normal that you don't fully get the concept of the closure now this morning, okay? You need to think about this probably a few weeks, okay? If you have questions, I'm glad to answer here, but also during the labs. Don't forget, we are available in the labs. I will be in the labs, or my colleague Antonio will be in the labs together with a student helping us, okay? So don't be afraid of asking things. Often in the labs, we are just, waiting for questions. So, we are glad to re-explain things or help understanding things in case it's needed, okay? Don't be shy. Anyway, so sometimes, as I wrote in the schedule, today I will update the schedule for next week, okay? But, today here, 10 a.m. on Thursday, exercises on arrays and strings, okay? So these are the exercises. There are actually 3. I think today we are going just to solve 2, okay? One is about arrays, the other is about strings, and the third is more about objects, okay? And we will do it Monday in the first 1 hour and a half, okay? Well, we need an environment to program in JavaScript. Of course, you can play with the Python tutor, probably with very simple examples like this, it works, okay? But it's very inconvenient. You write one code, you need to press execute, send it to a server, it elaborates it, and so on. We would like to have something which is more scalable, right? I recommended you to install a tool, a development tool, which is called Visual Studio Code, okay? Visual Studio Code. Okay, that's a window, and the first time it might ask a little bit of things like the directories where you want to work and so on, okay? But when you start working on this tool, okay, first thing, you need to open a folder that maybe you already created, like web application course 2026, because I have it every year. Maybe you just without the here, okay? And actually, I open the Git repository where I push my code at the end of the lecture, so it's easier, okay? But you can write in any directory you like, okay? Just just organize the directories in a way that you like, okay? So I open a directory. Okay, I trust the author, it's myself. Just because, we run code, so of course, if you open a random directory with random code, you don't really maybe want to run any code in your computer because it can access files in your computer and so on, okay? We are in the cybersecurity course of study, we try to underline these things every time. So this is the main directory. I already created a directory, week 01, and there is an exercise. So it's just a text file in this MD format, which is nothing special, just a way to have it formatted in a nicer way when you do a preview. So basically you can make bold fonts, bigger fonts, and so on. It's not really fundamental, okay? And it's automatically handled by the Git and the GitHub and so on, so it's nice to see something nicely formatted without too much effort, okay? We don't want to upload Google Docs, okay? We will upload PDF files, okay, for the labs, that's true. But, just for writing some text. And also for your documentation at the exam, writing this form is more than enough. Okay. Okay. So, where's the? It doesn't show everything, right? Code. Okay. Oh, here. Okay. So I did the open preview just to read it in a better way. So first exercise. Let's play with the arrays. Develop a smart JavaScript program to manage a set of scores given to something like your answer in a question and answer website, like Stack Overflow, whatever. So, scores are integer numbers. They may be negative. You should define an array with all the scores you received. For the moment, embed the scores directly in the source code. So we define an array at the beginning. So we don't have to do input-output, which is a bit difficult in JavaScript because it was not taught for this, okay? JavaScript was taught for writing code into a web page. If we don't have a web page, we need a library to do these things, and very complex. I mean, not so complex, but I mean, cumbersome, I would say. Duplicate the array, and then, so here, that's the code that is required. Duplicate the array. In the new array, eliminate all the negative score, call n the number of negative score you deleted, eliminate the two lowest ranking scores, so the two lowest, the number with the lowest value, and add nn plus 2 new scores at the end of the array with the value equal to the rounded average of the existing score, just to practice a little bit with some functions, math functions, arrays, adding values to arrays, and so on. Print both arrays. I mean, comparing means just looking at the scores when they are printed. Okay? Okay. So, just to tell you, I mean, I just experimented yesterday, and I want to show you something. I mean, I hope you don't get addicted to this, okay? But you see, nowadays there's this chat sidebar, which is very inviting, right? Very, very tempting. And you say solve exercise 1. I hope it works. Yesterday it worked. Okay. I connected my GitHub account, so basically behind the scenes there's I hope there's a network connection. Yes. There's Copilot working on something like this. It's free, okay, at least for simple stuff. Okay. No, X2 actually was another thing. I hope, okay, created X1, okay? So that's the solution. I don't know. Well, let's say it keeps. Well, we can, I mean, be careful when allowing to run code, okay? I'm not sure what it's doing. It's running the example. So that's the output. Some explanation. Let's say I keep it, okay? X1 AI. Rename AI, okay? Or Copilot and so on. Okay, so scores improved, score slice. I don't like this instruction. Let's assume you are at the exam. Why you did use slice to duplicate an array? Is there any reason? Actually, I would say no, okay? I think yesterday gave another solution. Anyway, okay, want to improve it? No, want to have a copy? We say that there is a spread operator, right? It's a slice, okay? Much more readable. It's a slice. Slice, of course, I know what slice is, but at the exam, you need to know what slice is, what does, what are the parameters, what's the result value, and why you used it. And the problem is that typically you have no reason why you use it, okay? Because actually it's not a function supposed to make a copy. I mean, yeah, it can make a copy as a side effect if you don't pass any parameter and so on. If you don't know what this slice is, of course, go to the MDN. That's probably the best place. I think here, slice. Let's forget for a moment array, the prototype. Okay, array. Okay, slice is defined over strings as well. And takes some parameters, even 0 parameters, the start, the end, and what does it do? Slice. Return a shallow copy of a portion of an array into a new array. Okay, so it makes a copy. That's why it did it, right? But I mean, let's try to understand something here, and not just to play play with some pre-created solutions, okay, that we don't really understand that much, okay? And of course, I mean, if you look at this code, you might get a different code when you execute it yourself with your AI system and so on. You might find a lot of things which are not so straightforward, I would say, okay? And so, okay, it might be an help, and in case you don't know where to start, okay, maybe ask for help, but there are the labs as well, okay? We spend so many hours in the labs, and sometimes they are not so much exploited, and it's like a pity, right, that you don't use it, okay? Because there we can have one-to-one communication. You have any doubts, you can ask anything, and we can help. Okay, and then it does the operation, eliminate the negative scores, etc. It sorts the array. That's a good idea because we need to take the last two values, compute the average, improve, reduce. Okay, this is a method we will see, but we didn't see it yet. It's quite complex to use. Okay, because this is functional programming paradigm, which is useful, and we will use it, but later on, okay? And then, okay. I mean, the assignment is not that difficult. I mean, it's like something you could have and use it and do it in your first grade your first class of computer science, right? So, well, let's start from the beginning. Actually, there's a thing which is missing in the beginning. It creates a lot of anxiety to me, okay? Use strict. We say we work in strict mode, okay? Good, the AI maybe is good. It doesn't need strict mode. I mean, we need it. We need it, okay? So we create a new file, x1, okay? Empty file. And for the moment, we don't care about generating code. Use strict, okay? Okay, and then there's a lot of suggestions. I mean, current day, I mean, not sure what it wants. Anyway, so define an array with a set of scores. Okay, we define this array. How do we define an array? Well, array, I mean, just copying a little bit because so it's easier to check. I don't do, let's say, mistakes that it takes time to debug because we have so less time, so few time to do this operation to get this development together. Okay, so minus 12, minus 3, what's 11, 10, 4. Even want to suggest random numbers. 0, 16. Nice thing, it has probably access to last year's solution, which was mostly the same, but it still suggests something different. Okay, so we have this array, right? Console log original scores. Okay, I guess original scores, we like it. Okay, save it. So save, I'm using some shortcuts, but I mean, there is always something in the menu save that corresponds to the shortcut, Control S, okay? How do I execute this code now? It's nice to write, but we want to run it, right? So, I need to reduce a little bit interface. Terminal, new terminal, okay? Actually, I'm on Linux. If you develop it yourself, you can be on WSL, Windows Subsystem for Linux. If you have Windows, that's a suggested option if you like to use Windows. So be in the virtual machine for Linux that nowadays comes together with Windows. Just the first time you need to install it. It takes a little bit of time, but you do it once. If you're on Linux, there's no problem. You open a terminal. If you are on Mac, you open a terminal. There's already a terminal available. You need to have Node.js installed, okay? I told you last time there are instructions how to install all this stuff. There's a set of slides, installation instructions, okay? Node.js Okay, use the latest LTS version. Why the LTS? Because they like to change it every 6 months or so. And so, I mean, we want to keep the same version for the whole duration of the course, okay, until the exams finishes. And then probably we'll get 26 next year, more or less, okay? But I mean, not really so important because we are not really using so advanced functions and functionalities of the environment, but if we are all on the same page, that's better, right? Okay, the development tools, React developer tools are for later. We don't have React now. The programming environment, Visual Studio Code. You might have to download it separately from your distribution, Linux distribution, Windows, and so on, but you just download it once. And of course, it will update every few days. If you like to update it. But I mean, the basic functionality is there since quite a few years, so I mean, not really a problem. Okay, and then you find all the details instruction for the installation, which I already followed, of course. So in the terminal, I have the possibility to write Node, okay? A Node is an interpreter, the interpreter, JavaScript interpreter, okay? I make things big so you can read it, but let's close this chart. Okay, and of course, here you need to type code and you receive the result immediately because it's an interpreter. So exit, I guess, no. Exit, it's a function. I don't remember how you exit it. Dot exit, okay? Anyway, or Control C, okay? You stop any program with Control C. Node, and we need to be in the same directory, week01, okay? And here we have the files, right? Node with the name of the file, x1, execute the code, okay? So we are writing code and running it. Writing, running, writing, running. You can even debug it, but maybe it's for later, for another lecture, okay? And to debug it, you need the help of the environment. I mean, in this case, Visual Studio Code. So we just defined a vector as we saw it before with the Python tutor. If you do console log of a vector, JavaScript has a method toString that creates a string that can be printed in a nicely formatted way. Okay? Good. So let's go on. We define the array, we duplicate the array. Okay? Okay, duplicate the array. I guess it's like they hear my voice. Okay? Okay, so tab, if you like to use this copilot, let's use it. Okay? I like to duplicate the array in this way, not with the splice I saw before and so on. Okay? The 3 dots is perfectly fine. Otherwise, there is array of, array from. Go back to the slide and see how we duplicate the array. Okay? If we write improved equal to v, we just have an alias. So the array is just one. There is just one array in the memory. Okay? If you have a doubt, actually, there's not much you can do it here. You could debug and see, but I mean, maybe later. Run the code in the Python tutor. The Python tutor will give you a graphical representation of what's happening, and it's easy to understand what's happening. Okay? So I like it to call it v2. Okay? Good. Of course, I can do console log, but I mean, let's try not to waste time. Of course, it comes out the same thing. Okay? The point is that it's a different vector, so the original is preserved. Okay? And then in the new array, eliminate all negative scores. Call and the number of negative scores. So we need to keep track of the fact that there is a certain number of negative scores, because later on we will need this number. Okay? So how can we do this? I mean, this is a basic programming exercise. It's true. I mean, in a basic computer science class, probably you do something like 4 let I0 v2 length if v2 is less than 0, I remove it. Okay? Yes, splice. Splice is a very much used method on arrays. Okay? Remember what it does. Ah, no, slice. No, splice is different. Slice is one thing. Splice. Okay? Change the content of the array. The other was returning a new array. This is changing the content of the actual array that is passed by removing or replacing existing elements or adding new elements in place, so in the array that is passed. Okay? Actually, it's passed means the array on which the method is called, okay? Because you don't pass it, okay? You call this method on the array. Every array has this method, okay? Because the array is a predefined object in JavaScript and it's a set of predefined methods, and there is a list here in the documentation where you can find the predefined methods. So, you need to know the parameters, a lot of ways in which you can call this splice. Okay, start. Zero-based index is to start changing the array. Okay? I want to change the second element. That's 1, right? Because first is 0, second is 1. Okay, that's the index. Then, number of elements to delete. Delete count, an integer indicating the number of elements in an array to remove from start. Okay, I want to delete just 1. It's fine. Start 1. And then, you see, it's optional. And then, item 1, 2, 3, and so on, optional. Oops, again. It's, they are elements that can be added to the array, okay? I think in the same position, last position, beginning from start, okay. So you delete something and you add something else. So the method is quite flexible. It can handle both deletion and addition at a certain point in the array at the same time, okay? But it's a function with a variable number of parameters. If we don't want to use something, we just don't use it, okay? Here we just want to delete and we don't want to add anything, so this part is not used, and we just put start and delete. Let's see the code, okay? Splice I, that's a position, and we delete one element, okay? So splice is fine. Okay. I minus, okay. I don't really like this code anyway. Because then you need to think what's happening. Okay. I need to stay on the same position at the next step. Okay, that's why the AI has put this minus. Okay. So that's a perfectly fine solution, but not really a JavaScript style solution. Okay. Let's try to develop these solutions using the approach that a real JavaScript programmer would use. So try to exploit as much as possible the library functions of JavaScript and especially the programming style of JavaScript programmers. Not just because we want to learn it, which is already a good thing, but also because we find it around a lot. Okay? So if we need to understand the code that we find around, even the one brought by AI, actually we need to understand this programming style, okay? And so, how do we do this operation? Finding this, we deleted them? Yes, I think. We need to search for another solution. I mean, we don't really need, but we want to search, right? There's plenty of methods you can call on arrays. You see concat, every, fill, etc. Some of them, the more useful ones, we will see them in next lectures. I would say that this find index method looks interesting because we need to find all elements in the array that has a certain property. Okay? So, find index returns the index of the first element in an array that satisfies the provided testing function. Okay? If no element satisfies the testing function, -1 is returned. Okay? Okay. Okay, good. So, if we are in doubt, well, we should still, we should first look at the parameters, okay, and then at the example. So, parameters is a callback function, okay, and that's why I chose this method, because so we practice a little bit with functions as well. And then other arguments, I don't really remember what is this. A value to use as this, so that this keyword when you execute in a call, because we don't care. So a callback function is a function to execute for each element in the array. It should return a truthy value to indicate a matching element has been found, and a falsy value otherwise. The function is called with the following arguments. So, of course, we pass a function to another function. That is what this morning we called a callback. Okay? A function that the other function, so the find index, will call. Okay? And of course, when you pass a function, the function receiving it is expecting that that function, this callback, will work in some ways. Okay? And here the documentation says how it should work. So, the function should return a truthy value to indicate that a matching element has been found, but the function takes the element, the current element being processed in the array, and this is the find index task to pass each element to our callback. Okay? And then to our callback it also passes the index of that element in the array and the array itself. Okay? So, let's try to convert this specification into something useful for us. Okay? So, V2, find index. Okay? Okay. And then Copilot always has the solution. And then you need to pass a function. Okay? Stop suggesting. Okay. A function that evaluates to true every time we want to match the element in the array. Okay? So, how do we write a function? We saw three ways. Function with the name, without the name, or with the arrow syntax. You already saw the arrow syntax. It's the easiest when you need to write a small function. Okay? So, the arrow, let's write the arrow. Okay. It takes something. We said it takes 3 elements. Okay? It's in the specification. It's even reported here, right? So, value, element, index, array. Okay? And it should return true in case there is something that is interesting for us. Okay? So, we need to know the number, initially, just the number of elements that are negative. Okay? So, here, L, yes, less than 0, okay? It evaluates to true. Remember, the return value in an arrow function, if you don't write return, is the expression. Okay, so L less than 0 is a Boolean expression, so it will return, it will evaluate to true or false depending on the value of L. Okay, I think we wanted to have the negative, so no, sorry, all the negative scores. No, I brought greater than 0. Ah, yeah, I forgot the sort. Okay. Anyway. Okay. Let's test the code, okay? I like you to test the code often, okay? Because either you use a debugger and so you can see the values inside the variables, or the more often you test the code, the easier it is to get the errors, the mistakes that you might do when programming, okay? Especially at the beginning, okay? So, okay, so it has a return value. Find index as a return value, right? So find index as a return value returns the index. Oh, yeah, find index, okay. Of the first element in that array that satisfies the provided testing function, okay? Okay, so we need to write something on the left side here, right? Let's say idx. Okay, and then I want to debug. So console log first negative score. Yes, v2 idx at index idx. Okay, good. Let's try. Oh, there's something wrong. Good. Unexpected end of input. We forgot. Some brackets, yes. Okay. You see that the interpreter parses all the code before executing it, okay? So a bracket was missing, and it doesn't know where things finishes. So first negative score, minus 12 at index 0. So more or less things work, okay? Let's play a little bit. Let's change it to plus 12. Save and execute again. Okay. So first negative score, minus 3 at index 1. Okay, good. Good. Let's go back. Okay. You see that IDX and R are not used. Okay. Even the environment, the Visual Studio Code tell us. Okay, because it's a little bit different in terms of color. It's a lighter color, lighter blue color. And so you remember what we said about functions in JavaScript. I mean, a function has 3 parameters. We can call it just passing 1. Okay, it's fine. Okay, we can define it, even define it, ignoring the fact that it will be called with 3 parameters. We just define 1. And it will be called with 3 parameters. It's not an error in JavaScript. JavaScript will not give us an error, okay? Even though we have here in the documentation the statement that find index will call our callback with 3 parameters, we only provide 1. We ignore the other 2. It's perfectly possible. I would say it's quite often happens in JavaScript. So just remove them. I mean, they're there because sometimes you might need them, okay? If the condition is eliminate all the numbers that are in the even position, we need the index, okay? Not the element, not the value of the element, okay? Or give me the, well, find the index and also doesn't make that sense for this example, but I mean, in case we need the index or the array, we have them, okay? Even more. Just delete the brackets. That's the simplest way in which we can write this arrow function. Okay? Less than this, it's impossible. No brackets, no round brackets on the parameters, no curly brackets on the body. Okay? Just save and just test, especially at the beginning. Okay, it works. Okay? Just out of curiosity, let's say you put the brackets. What happens? Okay? Remember, functions have always a return value in JavaScript. Return value is undefined if you don't specify it with the return. Okay? Except in arrow functions where you don't have the brackets. If you put the brackets, you need to put the return. That's mandatory, return. Okay? So it works again. Okay? Just don't forget, of course, we are here to help, especially in the lab. Okay? So it's very easy to take something wrong, especially in the beginning when you start learning a language. Okay? It's true there's that nice sidebar with the chat. What's wrong in the code? Maybe they tell you. Okay? But, I mean, just experiment a little bit. Okay, so this works. But what I wanted to do, actually, I must tell you, I forgot one thing. Because I wanted all the negative numbers, and then we need to remove them. So maybe it's better to sort the array, the new array, before doing this operation. And sorry, I forgot to do it before. Sorting is always something useful, right? So in any language, typically there is a method. You don't write your sort function because it's so boring. Okay, it's so much studied, and any language has a sort function typically. But let's practice, okay, with JavaScript. Sort, okay, and are you sure there is a sort method on the array? Well, for sure, right? Sort. Sort the elements of an array in place means it modifies the array. It doesn't return a new array, okay? If you want a new array, I'm not sure. I think you need to copy it before. There's no method that creates a new array for sorting. And returns the reference to the same array now sorted. The default order is ascending bit upon converting elements to string, blah, 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 blah. Okay? So, sort. No parameters. Okay? And I would put console log here. Sort scores, just to show you how peculiar JavaScript can be. Let's try the code. Oh, good. It's sorted, right? -1, -12, -3, 0, 10, 16, 18, 4. Somebody has wrote the wrong implementation in the sort library in JavaScript. Not so sure, right? Because I mean, it's being used for years. Maybe somebody spotted the problem, right? Would have spotted the problem. And sort the elements of array in place and returns the references. Now sort the default sort array is the same bit upon converting the elements into string. Then compiling the sequences of UTF-16 code in unit values. Okay? So I treated our numbers as strings. And that's why we got that weird order. But if you think, okay, all minus comes before the 0, and then the 1 comes before, shorter one comes before longer ones, and so on. Okay? So it's sorted like if they were strings, but they are numbers. Actually, we need to be careful. Okay? There's nothing else we can do. I mean, the implementation of the sort could have been different. Like, I mean, JavaScript at runtime can know which is the type of a value. Okay, you can do an if, and you can try to do something different. But we also say that vectors can contain any value. So does it make sense to make a sort just for numbers, or when there are numbers, and when it's a mix of numbers, strings, and so on? We don't know. Well, we don't care that much. Sort takes a function, as in many other languages, okay? That is a compare function that expects two elements, A and B, and you can define what's the behavior of the sorting, defining how to compare two elements. And that's a basic block that the sort uses to do the sorting, okay? So, the function takes A and B, and a negative value indicates that A should come before B, positive the opposite, and 0 are equal. Okay, don't forget this doesn't return a boolean. It should return a value which is positive, 0, negative. Okay, especially if you want to keep the order, the original order. Okay, To memorize this, remember that A, B, oh, there is already a suggestion. A less B, sort the number in an ascending order. That is what we want, okay? So actually, that's already the solution in the documentation. Okay, so sort A, B, A minus B. Note that here we cannot miss the parentheses because there are two parameters and not just one for the arrow function. Okay, so these round parentheses A, B are mandatory. Okay, I don't think it works without, right? Let's try, but you see it's an error. A is not defined. Okay, like this. Okay, it works, and now the sorting order is correct for the numbers. Okay? Good. Then, okay, sorted scores, we find the index, the first index at which the element is negative. The first. No, indeed, the logic that I thought, it was the first element that was greater or equal to 0. Okay? So that we know when the negative numbers have finished, because we sorted the array. Okay. So, of course, first negative score is no more. First non-negative score. Okay? First non-negative score, 0 at index 3. 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, we start from 0, like in C and in other languages. Okay, good. And then we need to remove these elements from the array, right? So, how do we remove them? Of course, I mean, it's good. For, etc. I think it works. I'm not sure, but let's check it. Well, it has been updated. Okay. It doesn't suggest anymore. It's confused. So 0, 4, 10, 16, 18. I mean, this is what you would do in a basic computer science class, right? For iterate over the arrays, all what they taught about the arrays and so on. It's not what we like in JavaScript. There is a method already tested and operates on the array and so on. We try to use it, both for practice, because this point is about practicing, and also, you know, because it's faster, we don't need to debug standard methods of the standard library, because typically are very well debugged, no bugs, okay? So, V2, splice, okay? And splice, we delete, you remember the splice, right? We had the splice, let me open the splice. Splice, the start and the number of elements to delete, okay? So, at the beginning, 0, and IDX, I don't like it, I call it NN, because it was called NN in the text. Oops. NN, okay? Yeah, oh, good, it's suggesting. Okay, accept NN instead of IDX. Okay. So, you see, I mean, this AI can help you, but you need to keep it under control, okay? Especially later when we will have React and all these kind of things, okay? Now, this is a very toy example, so, you know. So, let's delete this code, which is very, you know, basic stuff. And let's see if it works. Okay, so I save the file, and it works. Splice 0 NN, and we also have NN, okay, which is 3, okay, which is the number of elements that which were negative numbers. Okay, good. And now I don't remember what was the requirement. Eliminate the two lowest ranking scores. Okay, we do it. So V2, you remember how we eliminate scores? I don't. either you ask to the AI, you can do it. I don't want to use too much the AI here during the course, because then people think, okay, that's the way to do. I mean, you have the slides, right? We had the copying methods and so on. I think it was before here. So shift, remove the element from the beginning of the array, okay? Just double check in the documentation. Shift, removes the first element of an array and returns the removed element. We don't care it removes the fact that it returns the element, but we care about the fact that it modifies the array, okay? That's what we want. So shift, lowest non-negative score. Yes, comment is correct. Shift, we want to do it the second lowest negative number, of course. Okay, impressive, right? I mean, this AI technology is impressive, but you know, be careful when you use it. Okay, let's try. Remove the 0 and 4, and we have 10, 16, 18. Good. Okay. Of course, if we have to remove 10 elements, we don't write shift 10 times. Okay, just to allow me to write it twice. Okay. And then we need to compute the average, right? I think it was add nn plus 2 new score at the end of the array with a value equal to the rounded average of the existing scores. How do we compute the average? You might remember what the AI did, right? Improved, reduced, it's fine, it's correct, but you need to be able to explain it at the exam, okay? We don't do this this way, even though later on in the course we can use it because we learn this reduced method. But this time, let's stick with the traditional solution in computer science courses, okay? Let's define a sum, average, it's perfect, okay? We define a variable, I don't like this solution, for const. So we practice a const, okay? Val of v2 average plus equal val, okay? We do the sum, right? Very simple stuff. I iterate over an array and we accumulate the value into a single variable, right? And then we do the math operation to compute the mean. So we divide by the number of elements in the array and we round it, okay? So division, very simple, divided by v2 length, okay? Remember that's the property length in the array, okay? By the way, we don't have the index, so that's the only way in which we can get the length of the array. Average is the sum, and then there is this math round, and luckily it suggested it, otherwise you can always Google it, okay? Google is not, I mean, Google has the AI in the answers as well nowadays, but anyway. So average, okay, good. So it looks good. Average of the remaining scores, yeah, it's good. So I guess, I mean, this is just text, okay? So let's try it. Average of the remaining score, 15. I hope it's correct. 10, 16, 18. Okay, 27, 44. Yes. Okay, so it was 44 divided by 3, I think. Rounded, it's 15. Okay, 14 something, 15. Okay, just if you are curious, okay, just remove the average, okay, 14, 6. Okay, no difference between floats, number with a floating, with the, what's the name in English? With the fractional part and integers, okay? No different in JavaScript. But of course, the math round, it will return a number with 0 fractional part, okay? And the console log is smart enough to print it without .000. Okay, and then we are almost done, right? Almost done because we need to add some elements to the array. That was the requirement. Add n plus 2 new scores at the end of the array with a value equal to the rounded average, and so on. Of course, we can... Oh, something is wrong here. Of course, we can, do like it suggests, right? I0, n plus 2, push. Push in the slides says push, add at the end. Okay? One adds, the other pop, removes. That's a possibility. Okay? Again, we don't like it. Why? Just to practice with the methods of JavaScript. Okay? So, let's create a new array. Yes, const. New added array. Added array. Okay. Ooh. I'm not sure what you wrote. Okay. New array. Fill. I don't know. Let me check in the documentation. Okay. This gets recorded. Okay. So everything is recorded, but of course, no. I check in the documentation. New array. So array constructor. Array. Creates a new array. New array. What's the parameter? Parameters. Elements 1, element n, or array length. Okay? Array can be called with or without a new. Both create a new array. Okay? Because it's a sort of special function. It's been written in a way that works both with a new, so I use this, etc., and also without. It's just a function. JavaScript has only functions. Okay, so if we pass the array length, okay, so how can it distinguish if it's an element or an array length? It's in the description, okay? Those who wrote a function said, okay, if there is a single argument and the argument is a number, okay, it creates an array with a certain number of elements, okay? What's the content? Actually, I don't know. We should check. Okay, it's array objects with array constructor. So okay, we should play and check what's the content. Okay, console log added array. Okay, I think it's undefined. No, empty. Okay, even straight. Empty items. Okay. Curious. Anyway, so you saw the suggestion. We can use this method fill, which is nice. Array fill. Changes all the elements within a range of indices in an array to a static value. It returns the modifier array, but we already have no, if we concatenate, we need to have the return value. Okay? So if you put a fixed value, of course, everything is filled up with that value. So fill average. Okay, save. Execute, and you get 15 items. Okay? 15, etc. 5 times. Okay? And now we need to attach it. Okay? We don't like this syntax. Okay? The push is correct. I mean, that's correct. I don't want to say it's wrong, but it's less JavaScript-like, JavaScript style. Okay? So v2, okay, that's another possibility. That's nice, right? Push, added array, because push also takes, I think, a variable number of parameters, right? If it uses in this way. Push adds, but you can put a lot of elements, and they all get pushed at the end. I think we use the splice. just to practice. So this is fine. Huh? Splice. Okay, it's good with splice as well. It studied JavaScript. The AI studied Java. So splice the zero-based location in the array from which to start removing elements. This time we are removing 0 elements, and we are adding, okay, we are adding elements to insert in the array, okay? We need to pass each element as a separate parameter, and that's why we are using the spread, the 3 dots, okay? Because the function works this way. Otherwise, if it takes an array, we pass the array, okay? But we need to go and check the definition. I think it's still there somewhere. Where splice? Let's just click it, okay? So it takes, with this, you know, the items, okay? Not the array, the items. Okay. So save, test, and that's all, right? Average of remaining scores, 15, and you get them attached to the array. Okay? Good. I think for this example, that's all, right? So note we missed the semicolon here. Okay? It's fine. I mean, to have a little bit of consistency in the code, I like to put it, but you saw the code worked in any case because JavaScript knows where to put the semicolon implicitly, let's say. Okay? I think this is, for this example, that's all. Just to show it, because this is the first time, and I want you to know that we will do these things and so on. So X1, I will now push it on the Git, so you get it. No, let's do it directly from here. Okay? So, but this is just me, okay? And then you will read from the web, okay? Or you can clone the repository, but you have only the option to clone it for reading and not for writing, okay? I don't want you to mess with my repository, with the course repository, even just for chance, okay? So, first, example 1 solved, okay? I push it. I already cloned it before coming here. Okay, so now on the web you find this solution in real time. Okay, everybody can click and see the code that we developed. Okay, I'll try to do this as much as possible during the course. Okay, we still have some time, not so much, but I mean, we'll rush a little bit more for this second example now that we practice a little bit with the environment. Okay? So let's just forget about these examples and we go to the second one, which is about strings, my users list. So define the names as a comma separated string containing the names, manage a list of people names, sorry. Comma separated string containing the names of the people we want to manage that were the past teachers of this course and the ones in the computer science course of study. Parse the string and create an array containing one name per array position. Okay? Beware, no extra spaces should be present at the beginning and the end of the names. Create a second array by computing the acronyms of the people. As the initial letter of the name, acronyms should be all in all capital letters, like Luigi De Russis, LDR. Okay, that's the acronym of the name. Enrico Masa, EM. Okay. Print the resulting list of acronyms and the full names, extra in alphabetical order of acronyms. Okay. Again, we can ask the AI, just write the solution. Good, but I mean, here, I just wrote the names. Something has lowercase, some has uppercase, some has some spaces around, and so on. As a template, literal, you see, we can have multiple lines, etc. Okay? Don't forget, use strict. Okay? Especially in the beginning. The more you are a beginner, the the more you should remember to use the strict. Okay? So, okay, const, let's do like this. Okay, so I want the single names. How do I do? First of all, let's search in the standard library. Is there something that helps us so that we don't have to write so many fors, so many iterations, and so on? Splitting on a certain value, like the comma, is so common. Okay, there's a split method. This split method, I think it's on the arrays as well. Split. No, it's not on the arrays, of course, sorry. It's on strings. Okay, arrays cannot be split. I mean, they have a single position. So string, okay, string split takes a pattern and divides a string into an ordered list of substrings, and puts the substrings into an array and returns the array. Okay, it's like this one splits over the space, the white space, and it gives you an array. Okay, you can run this example, remember, okay, just in case. Okay, so let's try, and then print, okay, console log names, okay, save. Remember to run exe2, okay, we changed the name of the file, okay, it's another exercise. No, sorry, I didn't print. Okay, that's the array. And you see there's a new line, some spaces before Fulvio Corno, the third row, and so on. So we should try to eliminate those white space characters. Okay, it's no extra spaces. So is there something helping us in strings? Yes, trim. Okay, yes. I mean, there are no characters in JavaScript, so it's always a string, okay? Comma, yes, it's just a string with a single character. I think the function matches the string you put there with all the positions in the original string, okay? Of course, the easiest way of thinking is just you have a single character in the string, so you just search for one string. Maybe it works with two as well. I never tested it, because typically you split on a single character or a single white space and so on. But, I mean, in theory it's possible. Just let's remember that there is no concept of characters in JavaScript. So it's a string with one character, okay? So, indeed, it means that the function, the split function, should handle the case in which we pass a string with two characters. In some ways, either they match all the characters or just they consider the first one. And then they need to write it in the documentation, okay? Because we didn't write the split function. Okay. So we were looking for a function, trim, okay? That is common in many other languages, but it's very useful in JavaScript. Because you know that in JavaScript, you use it in web application. Web application, you have forms, people type content, and sometimes they mistype an additional space, some new lines and stuff. So eliminating these white space characters is very a common operation. That's why basically we see it here, and we also find functions like this in the standard library. Okay. So, okay, trim, okay, so the trim must be run on every element in the array, okay? And we need to decide if we want to overwrite the element or not, okay, or creating a new array. Let's overwrite it, just to practice a little bit, okay? So, okay, let it 0, that's a standard way of doing things, right? names I trim. Okay, it's C-like code. Okay, let's test it. Okay, that's more or less what we want. There's no new line, no space at the beginning. We just need to adjust it a little bit. Okay, so const name. Actually, I wanted to overwrite the original content. Okay. Okay. So I don't need to print it. What is that? And just print the result. Console log names. Okay. Okay. So the result is more or less what I want. Okay. Note that in this case, for off is less suitable for us. Okay. Because for off doesn't give us the index in the array. Okay, we can write for n name of names. Oh, I forgot the. Okay. Well, name should be defined. Const. It's okay. And then we don't have the index, so you cannot overwrite the original array. Either we create a new array, so empty array, and then push, or we will use functional methods as in the next lectures, or we have no alternative to have an index, right? I0 before starting the for, and so to have an index outside, let's just use the index. It's a traditional, let's say, C-like programming, okay? So it's not forbidden to use the off, but in this case, it's simply not useful, okay? We have other ways of doing this without the for, but we need a functional programming concept that we don't have at the moment. Okay, so for later. Okay, the acronyms. Const acronyms. Acronyms. Okay, acronyms, empty vector. We create an empty vector because you have to work a lot. Okay, it's fine. I mean, there's nothing wrong in programming traditional way. Let's say, create an empty vector, add things using the for and so on, and then we can think in case the code can be more optimized. Okay. So here we can use I would say the for const name of names. Okay, because we don't use the index anymore. And once we have the acronym, we take the acronym, just push it into the new array. It's fine at the end. Okay, so parts, name split. Could be a possibility. That's not the way we thought. Okay. But, I mean, in practice, I think it should work. And you need to be careful of what happens in case there are two or more spaces between the first name, last name, and so on. So the split, I'm not sure, I guess it creates an array which has empty strings. Okay, so just be careful. Okay, but you practice a little bit with different inputs, and you see the output, and you adjust it as it is required. Okay, so that's the way we solved it. So we started with the first letter is always uppercase, so the first character. Okay, so let's create a string. Okay, in the beginning we take the first element of the name. And you see that, to uppercase. Name 0 is the first character of the string. Okay, you can access strings as if they were arrays of characters. Okay, you cannot just write because we say it's immutable, it's read-only. Okay, but reading is fine. To uppercase, remember that name 0 gives you a string. Okay, because there are no characters in JavaScript. It reads a character, it gives you a string. It's like this. To uppercase, well, I don't want to do too many searches in the documentation, but I guess you guess what does it, what it does, converts all the alphabetic characters in a string to uppercase. There's just one character, it's fine, it goes uppercase, okay? Don't do strange operation, plus 32, whatever, go to the ASCII. I mean, there is a library function, we use it. It's already been tested much more than our code, okay? Good. And then, yeah, acronyms push a string is good, but I mean, that's not that's not what we want at the moment. We want not just the first character, but also all the other characters at the beginning of the new words. That is, first name, middle name, last name, and so on. Okay? So, for let I0, name length, yes, almost good. But the first, oops, why? 4. Okay? The first character has already been processed. I don't want to process it. So, yes. Just I don't like the indentation. So, format selection. Okay? No, just stay here. I mean, there's no, there's no, I cannot find the word. The code should not be moved on the right? It's not nested. Okay, 4. Let I1 name length I++, if name I equal to empty space, name I plus 1 to uppercase. Okay, so it was correct 0 and name length -1. I like 1, and so I like I minus 1, and so I like name I. Okay, so if the preceding character is a white space, the current character is taken, uppercase, added to string. Okay, and by the way, you see that we can add to string in this way. We already saw on Monday, plus, okay, plus concatenate string. So plus equal is string equal to string plus, and it creates a new string, by the way. But I mean, we don't care too much about the efficiency and the memory usage and so on. I mean, at least in the beginning. Okay, so it's perfectly fine if you do, just use a bunch of strings and you process a bunch of strings. I mean, if you waste a little bit of memory nowadays, it's not a problem. Okay? Okay, so at the end, acronyms, push string. Good. So I think it's almost done, right? So LDR, LM, FC, JP, etc. Okay, good. Yeah, just test. Maybe you can make a test. Additional white spaces. It doesn't work. Okay. So we should fix this code, I guess. We should check if the and, right, name I is not. Okay. I guess this fixes it. Okay. Even the AI realized we made a mistake. Okay. Anyway, I mean, they're just very simple things to fix for you at this level of your learning path. Okay, just basic programming. We want the last thing, sorting, right? Extra in alphabetical order of acronym. Well, this time is easy, right? Acronyms sort. Okay. I don't want to put it here because I mean, it's a bit confusing, right? Acronym sort, remember, sort works on the array in place, okay? So after you have called console log acronym sort, you cannot call it, I mean, if you call it second time, it sorts again, okay? So just sort once, I mean. And let's see if it works. Yes, A, E, F, J, and so on, okay? So, I guess more or less we finished the exercise, right? And so, maybe for next time, you have a look at exercise number 3 that we will do on Monday. Managing a simple data structure as an array of objects, but an answer and so on. It will be the basis, the first piece of code of the example that we will develop during the course from basically next week till the end. And you define a constructor function just to practice a little bit with this new something. Okay, I don't want you to force to use it, but at least see them once so that, I mean, if you encounter a new, you know what's happening. Okay? You know what's happening. So next week we will start doing this exercise and then go on with the next set of slides. I don't remember the topic. I think we can start talking about functional programming. That is very much related to functions, okay? Passing functions around and so on, which is very, very important in JavaScript to understand. If you have any questions, comments, and so on, you can speak up now or just ask me after the lecture, okay? So for today we finished. Remember, no labs again today. Just from next week on Tuesday there will be labs, okay? And then Thursday for the other group. Okay, thank you, and see you on Monday.